Good evening to all my listeners around the Caribbean, the world, and the USA. This is the Collister Fahie show. And of course, my name is Collister Fahie. Today is Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. And on the hot seat tonight, the episode is Revelations. So again, good night to all my listeners and my viewers on Facebook and on YouTube at Collister Fahie 647. Welcome started. Apparently, the breaking news in the Virgin Islands right now is that Mr. Darren Richards has been found guilty on all counts in his corruption case in the district court on St. Croix. So a jury of his peers have found him guilty on all counts. And so it begins, the revelations. Now, to all those who do not recall, Darren Richardson is caught up in the corruption case with the Charlemagnes, with Davidson Charlemagne and his wife Sasha Charlemagne, who will be tried later this year. That is the first corruption case that is associated with the Brian Roach administration. This one encompasses what we call the woodpile scandal, where wood that was brought in for FEMA restoration and stockpiled various places, but after the contract was given to Davidson Charlemagne, he stored the lumber on one of the school properties in St. Croix, and the feds decided to indict based on the information that they obtained from reviewing the contract, the invoices, bank accounts, and the procurement of that contract between Davidson Charlemagne and Darren Richardson. So again, Darren Richardson apparently has been found guilty of all counts by a jury in the district court of St. Croix in these Virgin Islands. So one down and many more cases dealing with corruption to go. Good night, Mary, and welcome. Good night, Chantel, and welcome. Revelations. We are starting to see many things beginning to go into place. This first case, I believe, was brought by the federal prosecutors because it would set the stage for the other cases that are to come up this year. And so this cloud of invincibility, or the shroud of invincibility, seems to have taken a tremendous hit today. Many in the Virgin Islands feel that nothing will happen. People get indicted and nothing will happen. Good night, Cheryl, and welcome as usual. Just to recap, Darren Richardson apparently has been found guilty of all counts in his corruption trial as it pertains to the Woodpile scandal. So that shroud of invincibility that many in the Virgin Islands believe exists may be coming under attack simply by the laws of the land. As I said, this case, in my view, serves as a precursor for what is to come, because there is an underlying whisper that is going through the community in the US Virgin Islands of enough is enough. They feel that a select few have gone too far, done too much, because they feel invincible above the law and just have been getting away with it for decades. Even today, with the finding of guilty, many are already asking the question, well, how could it be that Darren Richardson just walks out the courthouse still free, even though he has been found guilty? Be not alarmed. Some people say nothing is going to happen. He's going to walk. And I remind my listeners and viewers that this is a federal case in the district court. And so, regardless of if he appeals or wants to appeal, his next date in court will be for sentencing. And because this news is breaking now, the full scope of it has not hit the airwaves as yet. We will see what the VI consortium comes up with, what the Daily News comes up with, what WTJX and the St. Thomas, the St. Croix, and St. John's source comes up with. And so I'll revisit this tomorrow to tell you what they are saying in the paper and what they are not saying in the paper. But for now, just know, the first corruption case of 2025, guilty on all counts, and of course, we will await the sentencing. As we continue in the US Virgin Islands, the governor is staunchly defending the WICO board installing Joseph Bushulta as CEO, even though it seems to be, by some views, a violation of the law. Because the law states a year must pass before a member of the board can be reinstated to any other position. You have senators, Senator Kurt Vele and others saying, no, the court has already spoken. The court has already spoken. And so they are having a problem with Joseph Bushulta being placed as the CEO as a possible violation of the laws. But I bring you, my listeners, back because it is a similar law that should be applied to Mr. Raymond Williams. Good night, Queen. How are you? It's a similar law that should preclude Raymond Williams from serving on the Board of Elections and the Public Services Commission and still as Director of Lottery. But in these Virgin Islands, people break laws, bend laws, and circumvent laws when they want, for who they want. And so here is the leader of the territory already weighing in, signaling that, hey, he don't see it as a violation of the law, because even though Waiko belongs to the Virgin Islands, they are, quote unquote, a private entity. This is where I say we run afoul of the law in the Virgin Islands by design. A lot of what is going on when it comes to some of these laws, they are contrary to themselves. You have the same authority given to different areas under the very same laws. How is this so? I surmise that it is simply because it gives an opportunity to talk with no action. Because who is going to have the gumption to move to the court on behalf of the people of the Virgin Islands when the leaders who represent us as the people of the Virgin Islands are already weighing in to the contrary of what seems to be the law? So then the legislature is not a check and balance for the executive, and the courts, and everybody know they're not a check and balance for either the legislative or the executive branch. So we're back at square one. Another law, perfect example of what is going on in the Board of Elections when it comes to Raymond Williams, has now reared itself when it comes to Waiko and the Waiko board, the CEO position, and Joseph Bushulta. And there are many more cases of laws conflicting. And so we will see if that was just another story put in the VI consortium so that we could read it and pass it, and nobody does nothing, and they that select few do what they want. And we will know quickly, because we will know if Joseph Bushulta assumes the position of CEO this week, next week, or after 1 year, as the law says. We will see. Right now, the laws of the land is being violated by Raymond Williams and the very AG, the Attorney General of the Virgin Islands. His interpretation of that violation should not only give the people of the Virgin Islands pause, but in my view, it is disqualifying. But that's just my opinion. Others may feel different or interpret the laws of the Virgin Islands that are in black and white different. We have been beating this drum concerning Raymond Williams and the Board of Elections for many a moon. And yet the laws of the land remain in black and white. They are in Title 18. And if you realize, still, I would like to see what is the interpretation of the law as it pertains to the Board of Elections, its duties, and the supervisor of elections, and her duties. And if there is a conflict of those laws, then what? Should there be a rescinding of one of the laws? Or should the people of the Virgin Islands be represented by the Attorney General for what I call obvious fraud committed by the supervisor of elections to rip the power out of the hands of the Board of Elections, all by design and with the blessing of a corrupt set of Board of Election members? So we will see. I continue on this vein with laws and cases. I also received an article of an individual who the prosecutors, the government of the Virgin Islands decided to drop the case of a gentleman accused of vehicular homicide. While the story itself doesn't really give you the context of that situation, Attorney Kai Walker weighed in the comments, as did I myself and others. And so as the little, just little trickles of what the real story is, it appears that the government of the Virgin Islands may, because like I say, the full context, I do not have the full context, but it seems that the government of the Virgin Islands may have done the right thing as it pertains to this gentleman. Others may disagree. Time will tell, as the stories invariably do come out in the community of what really happens. And I say all this to say, these are just a few of the revelations we are seeing, where the community is now being actively engaged. People are asking questions. People are weighing in. When the things seem to be going the same old, things seem to be a little bit strange as it pertains to the small man and the high officials of government. So these revelations will continue. The people of the Virgin Islands are starting to ask the right questions to the right people and in the right places. And that bodes well for us going forward. Now, I will continue some more. It appears that there is a little bit of wrangling going on as it pertains to policy, wants versus needs, and the hypocrisy, in my view, of an administration that seems to be reacting instead of acting. And so here is what I see that is revealed by what is not said. The amount of talk about privatization of WAPA, the Virgin Islands, you have to pay attention. Because while there is some talk of it, the underpinnings of that situation seem to be a bold move. A bold move. We don't hear much talk about the solar farms and tying in the solar with WAPA to make us, the customers, have lower bills and get relief. What I am hearing now, this is what they're not saying in the newspapers, is that WAPA, after it has been given so much million, seems to be being abandoned. And so privatization is now on the horizon. It's only 1 year and about 9 months left in the Brian Roach administration. And there will be many more revelations to come. Many more revelations. The next 9 months gonna be the setup, and then the following year, 2026, is gonna be the raping of the coffers of the Virgin Islands. Mark my words. I've seen it happen time and time again. And they will put things into place to benefit the next one up to be governor and lieutenant governor. But I believe in my heart of hearts that the people of the Virgin Islands are becoming aware. They are seeing the normal go along, the normal whoop up and whip whap. They are seeing it, and the people are saying, no, we're not accepting that anymore. And so I always tell my viewers, my listeners, when you look at those stories, don't just read the story, go down into the comments. And you get an idea of what the community is really saying. And so I said all of that. These are the revelations that are coming out now. Notice, in a case involving Darren Richardson, that many in that select group thought was going to be a revelation to us, as they felt that they didn't have no case against Darren Richardson. You know, he was just the wrong man in the wrong place, I guess, buying homes and doing whatever, and he get caught up. Well, the jury in St. Croix in the district court thought different. And like I tell you, the people of the Virgin Islands are becoming very astute in asking for documents, listening to testimony, and weighing it against conflicts of interest, enriching of oneself, and operating as if they are above the law. And so the first case down. And remember, in one of my earlier podcasts, I told you, this case with Darren Richardson would set the stage for the rest of the cases to fall in line. Because many thought that this case was probably the least of them, that, you know, if he get away, he ends so bad. And I keep saying, well, suppose he get found guilty. How does that bode for the rest cases that everybody says has much more evidence, much more corruption, blatant corruption in my view, right in the face of the people? Man, people were buying boat and giving money for fireworks. I'm surprised that the feds didn't even look into that piece. But that might be piece and parcel to the plea deals that invariably are being floated to these people who are indicted. So what do you think is going through the minds now of Davidson Charlemagne and Sasha Charlemagne, Carl White, Jennifer O'Neill, and Martinez? I foresee that some of the revelations that we're going to see in the next month, maybe more. I don't know what time it's going to be. I only could talk about what I anticipate. But as the legal justice system and jail gets closer and closer to these individuals, we're going to find out who are loyal soldiers, who going to take jail for who, and who ain't taking no jail for nobody. Ain't everybody like Alvin Williams. Ain't everybody like Wayne James. And ain't everybody like the former executive director of the Taxi Cab Commission, who plead guilty and take her time. Some people might be like Stephanie Barnes. But unlike Stephanie Barnes, who waited until she was found guilty to start to rock the boat and talk, maybe she should have talked from early and taken a plea deal in exchange for what she was indicating that she might know. So we will see what happens when it comes to that. Many revelations coming. Many revelations coming. As I tell everyone, there is an anti-corruption movement worldwide. You know, I listening a little bit of what's going on Long Island, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Dominica. It's the same. People talking about the very same things. People having conflicts of interest in business, intertwining government with business, with family members, associates, not-for-profits, And they're crying foul. It is a conflict of interest if the people believe that you are somehow enriching yourself through family members or friends by using your political clout and your political connections worldwide, even or locally. As I keep saying, in every nation, there are contractors, consultants, NGOs, businesses, LLCs, whatever you want to call them, that are highly aligned with the political powers that seem to believe that even a slight conflict is of no consequence. I say the opposite. Why entrench yourself in something that even has the slightest bit of conflict of interest? Why not remove yourself from any conflict of interest and the appearance of a conflict of interest? It's easy to do. So then why do we have this fight all across the Caribbean, in the USVA, in the US, Europe, and the world of these conflicts of interest, or even the basic appearance of conflict of interest? I come back to the Virgin Islands quickly. Because the governor has the ability to give out no-bid contracts. Why must he give those no-bid contracts to his former campaign manager? Why must he give those contracts to a company farmed by his daughter? Why must he give contracts to people who give campaign contributions? And so you give them every and all the contracts across government. It leads to failure. It leads to failure. So when you hear in some of these countries, they don't have no schools building, but they build in jail. When you hear in other countries down island, you hear, oh, well, we built up this and we built this and we did it through the CBI money. And if it wasn't for the CBI money, we wouldn't have this building put up. And don't you see that we are trying to revitalize some areas? But the people say, well, but if the CBI is 250,000 US dollars per passport, and we have 1,000 passports sold in a year, how come the money to fix up the building or to build the building is only a quarter, but where the rest, a quarter of that build the building and refurbish the area? So where the rest went to? And then you get shot down as people who ask questions about their money. Oh, you're not a team player. You're just trying to be troublesome. But it's you who give the numbers. And if the math ain't matting, we want to know where the money is. Similar to what Trump is doing in the US, we want to know where the people taxpayer money is. And that is, my people, the greatest revelation of the last month. But more so yesterday, or last night, pussy. Because every single nation were tuned in to President Donald Trump's address to the Congress. And like Trump said, he was going into the den of jackals and hyenas, and he was going to tell it like how it is. Well, so said, so done. And I don't get involved in whether it was good speech or bad speech. That's not my thing. That is to put on reels and to put out there so the people can see what the news is saying. But like I always do, I break it down based on my observations, my research, and what is happening in the world as we speak. And there are great revelations. Things have been revealed that people may not have been paying attention to. We see all these stories all across social media and in the news. Some of it less and some of it more explosive, all over Twitter, all over TikTok, all over Truth. all over Instagram, all over Facebook, but mainstream media, not so much. Publications, the newspapers, not so much. But these are some of the revelations that I think were made obvious last night by President Trump in his address. And so we're going to move away from the USVA and the Caribbean, and we're going to take President Trump's address last night to the Congress, to the American people, including the US territories and the world, and put it into one complete picture. President Trump last night slowly and systematically dismantled the Democrat Party as we know it in the United States. I believe that after last night, the great revelation is that the Democrat Party is on life support, and it only isn't dead yet because President Trump and his administration has just begun to unearth the level of corruption that the Democrats, some Republicans, and a lot of bureaucrats, family members, allies, and the non-government organizations, these companies and not-for-profits that they put together at the last minute to steal taxpayer funds, they're just getting started. But while they are just getting started, President Trump last night repeated a list of some of the nonsense that the last administration, I notice I didn't say Biden administration, the last administration, divvied up in the month after Trump won the election. Combine that with the years, decades of stealing taxpayers' money, doesn't bode well for the Democratic Party. Secondly, because Trump was able to give facts, dollar amounts, where the money was going to, what it was going towards, the people of the world, even though a lot of us been looking at news headlines and they're seeing it all over social media, it is a different thing when the President of the United States, watched by billions of people worldwide, would speak singularly the very same things that are being exposed in the media, and so now the world knows for a fact that it is true, that American taxpayers' money, millions of it, was being used to make mice transgender, giving millions for circumcision in Africa. Trump intentionally repeated some of the waste and the fraud in terms of the millions and billions into some areas that nobody even have an idea what it means. Yet we in the Virgin Islands as Americans and all Americans get hells to get rental assistance during COVID. We get hells for PPP, or you come into the Virgin Islands, because all of these things happen under the Biden administration, but it's not the Biden administration, because today we're finding out that Biden wasn't even cognitively aware of what was going on in his administration. So it's bureaucrats were running the government. Man, we just lucky to not get Kamala Harris. I'm not saying it. We just lucky because she was gonna get misused and circumvented by them bureaucrats again. People were making decisions for the government of the United States and not the president. And now you have Trump, who is president, who put in his hands in everything and everything, and then he is delegating it out. But he is putting what his policies are and what he expects. And that is leadership, whether you like it or not. And so I go back. It is the same Biden administration would lock up or indict persons who they say, quote unquote, took the PPP money under fraud and used it to buy cars, buy houses, go on trips. They arrest people right here in the Virgin Islands, embarrassing people. Only for us to now find out that the same people who want to indict, arrest, and embarrass people for PPP loans. Good night, Naomi, and welcome. Them same people who are willing to arrest the rank and file for 200,000, 300,000, a little 1 million here and there. We're doling out PPP loans to people that don't exist. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to Hollywood stars who are millionaires and billionaires. People who are elected in Congress, who are still getting a paycheck, use PPP loans, and they get them forgiven. They were taking contracts and subcontracts through their proxies and making millions. I could go on. What about those who knew beforehand how the markets were going to move? They knew that the masks were going to become a thing, and they just invest into these companies for masks, make millions. The Nancy Pelosi's of this world. And it ain't only Democrats, so don't feel a picking side. You got some Republicans who do it too. They make bank off of the information that they receive as politicians by investing it into the stock market, and they have almost a 95% operate and trades. But you come for somebody in the Virgin Islands who hustling, and you want to lock them up for $200,000 when you, who in positions of power, where we elect you to, were taking millions of PPP. This is the revelations that Trump given to us. Last night was a major eye-opening for a lot of people who said they don't like Trump. Can you imagine that the Democrat Party, them members of Congress, sit there, and because it is Trump, they could find nothing good in the people he was celebrating for their contributions to the community, their struggles in life, their suffering, and even to the parts that Trump talk about that is a benefit to every citizen. But when it came to Trump talking about how much the US has given to Ukraine, everybody clapping, is madness. This Democrat Party has lost it. With Trump, common sense is common knowledge, but with the Democrat Party in the United States and the Virgin Islands, common sense is not common anymore. Because while our governor, like I said last night, is sounding like a mini Trump, he's so fully aligned with the Trump policies. The Democrat mouthpieces in the Virgin Islands, mouth shut. They have a word to say about that. But simultaneously, they're all over social media still trying to bash Trump. And you got some of them who call themselves independents. I sound more Democrat than the Democrat Party. More Republicans who sound more like Democrats than the Republican Party. And by the way, where's the Republican Party at the Virgin Islands? They should be celebrating because the Republican president, the Republican Senate, and the Republican House should be well aligned with them. Silence in these Virgin Islands is almost as if they're Democrats. So they don't like what is happening. Call out everybody. Actions speak louder than words, and they're not even speaking, much less act. And this is some of the great revelations of Trump's speech last night. The fact that the Democrats say for months they can't close the border. They cannot stop illegal immigrants from rushing the border, coming in the thousands without Congress and, I guess, a law. Trump walked into the White House and shut down the border. And now illegal immigration is almost to naught. I think it was 350 in January. Well, not January. I think February. 350. So it went from here straight down to here. And Trump is just president. He didn't need no law. So that is a lie told by the Democrat Party for months to the people of the United States and the Caribbean and the world. I continue. While the Democrat Party showed up last night in the hall, dressed in pink, some of them, to so-called support women's rights, to stand with women, because they think that is a politically savvy thing to do, to gain votes. It ain't about the people, about women's rights. Those same people, every single Democrat, voted against the bill to keep men out of women's sports, to keep men out of women's bathroom. And so Trump keeps opening eyes. If everybody realize and be honest, Trump was combative, but smart. He wasn't the normal lashing out and no. He was very smart in the jabs he took at the Democrat members. He was very strategic in the placement of the people who he was honoring, letting their stories be known. But the most important thing was he was sending a message to the world that nothing is off the table. The US will negotiate with Putin. The US will take back the Panama Canal. The US will rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. The US will make people come into the US through tariffs, by tariffs, and invest in the country. He is deregulating the country. He is drilling. He is expanding the economy. He want to do shipbuilding. He want more manufacturing of cars in the US. All the Democrats could do is sit there and do nothing, not even applaud the wins of the people of the United States. That is some of the great revelations of last night. I was shocked because normally, you know that politicians are very slick in maintaining their base. But the Democrats weren't smart, because if they're trying to maintain a losing base, you lose to the Republicans, they'll get 77 million votes. You got 75, maybe less, maybe more. Fact remains is you have hemorrhage voters since the election, and you are kowtowing to your base by not even agreeing to the common sense things, the things that pull at everybody else's heartstrings. You were just there cold, no applause, not even a signal that you're a human being. He had one Democrat person, one lady, who stand up and applaud the young man who had 13 surgeries in his head, in his brain. Your cancer. One Democrat. Unforgivable. But the revelation is that is the double and tripling down that the Democrat Party as a whole has decided to take. It doesn't play well with even the Democrat voters. It doesn't play well even with the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the ABCs, the Reuters, the Associated Press. It doesn't play well. Today was a brutal day for the Democrat Party across all platforms. They have been seen as heartless, conniving, and anti-American. I never think I would have said those words. Coming from somebody who supported the Democrat principles, which, by the way, the Democrat principles are the very same principles that the Republicans now have taken up. It was just 10, 15 years ago. And so I say, the biggest takeaway for me as a revelation is that I know for a fact that if the Democrat Party continues the way they are continuing, they will not win another election for almost 20 to 30 years. They will hemorrhage more and more voters. Have no doubt that if Trump installs his policies that the majority, 78%, 80%, 90% of Americans are now buying onto, the Democrats in trouble. We may have a one party that they were trying to create, a one party where they could just win elections with illegal immigrants, now turn citizens who could vote, or even have illegal immigrants vote and no voter ID. Trump is in there and Trump is moving with the speed of light. And there are over 24 or 25 Democrats who are already signaling that they are going to try to fight into 2026 election to have no voter ID, to have mail-in ballots, to have illegal immigrants vote in their elections. Trump is going to fight them to the hilt. And I am telling you, with the majority of the United States now aligned behind the Republicans and Trump, demanding voter ID, valid voter ID for voting, valid ID to register to vote, same-day voting, only citizens of the United States vote in elections. And now Trump smells blood in the water. And so today, he is signaling that he is going to make election day 2026 and beyond a national holiday where everybody could go out and vote at their leisure from bright and early in the morning till into the night, 7 o'clock. You don't have to go to work. You could just dedicate yourself to go and vote. That's a game changer. And so the Democrats are going to lose. That's another 80-20 where the Democrats are taking the 20% side. I never think that I would have been sitting in 2025 bemoaning the Democrat Party of Bill Clinton that wanted to slash government jobs. In fact, he got rid of hundreds of thousands of jobs because he said he wanted to bring efficiency into the government. Barack Obama, the same thing, wanted to bring efficiency into government. Clinton, illegal immigrants, must be deported. They want people to come into the United States legally. That was a Democrat policy. Barack Obama, same thing. When did it change? It changed because they ran out of ideas and could not believe that Donald Trump, a businessman, could out-Democrat the Democrats. And so they took the opposite side simply to be in opposition of Trump. And every single time they went in opposition of Trump, they lost more and more voters to the point that COVID-19 came in and they did everything in their power to mislead, undermine, and bring in the most authoritarian rules, which in the end was going to be a negative for Trump. You can't have freedom of speech as your policy, and you have social media sites telling you that hydrochloroquine and ivermectin are harsh dewormer and they're not good for COVID, when the world knows they're good for COVID. The doctors knew. What was the reason for that censorship? It happened under Trump. It continued under Biden. But once Elon Musk bought Twitter and the information started to come out, the world realized that they lied to us. Fauci needs to be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. He and Deborah Birx were the faces of science, only to now find out that they were using USAID money to help create the virus that then was released to the world. Only now we're finding out that the reason why they had to disavow hydrochloroquine and ivermectin is because as long as you had solutions to COVID that were not a vaccine, then a vaccine couldn't be mandated. So they knew they were working, but they disavowed them. They said that they weren't any good for the COVID just to push vaccines. They bent over, knelt down, kissed the ring, and did worse. They sacrificed millions of people worldwide to satisfy the pharmaceutical companies that they were getting billions and millions and billions from. And so in one bold move, this is just his first address to Congress, and he has exposed the Democrats, exposed the bureaucracy. He has exposed the court, exposed all three branches of government, as even some in the court are putting out some ludicrous orders. You're going to stop the government of the United States from seeking an efficient government to cut abuse, fraud, and waste, theft of government funds. Courts joining on, judges. The Supreme Court now says that Trump must unfreeze the USAID funds that we already know go into things that don't make sense, and the Democrats defending that. They're going to hemorrhage voters. Look on top of social media. Go to CNN. Go to MSNBC now. Go to all them things that I like to watch. All those who think that they are so hardcore Democrat. And listen what the people saying. Even they have to admit that the Democrats are imploding. They have no heart. They're heartless. They cannot read the room, do not read the tea leaves. They choose 20% of an 80-20 argument every single time. And we now are finding out that every aspect of every Democrat government, every Republican government prior to Trump were engaged in the very same shenanigans because they were aligned in the intelligence agencies and the bureaucrats. we found out that America was giving more money to every country worldwide than the citizens of the United States and its territories. Trump showed us that you cannot unsee what you already see. You know what you didn't know. And whether you like Trump or not, is he who let you know. So I said to every Democrat, give middle fingers to Trump, use swear words, call him all kind of names, and then still turn around and tell him thank you because you're much wiser now. And you know that as an American citizen, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Libertarian or whatever, you've been hoodwinked by both parties for generations. And Trump comes in now with MAGA, with the Republicans, and have given you one of the most astute cabinets I have ever seen in my life across the government of the United States. No more Victoria Nuland, no more Susan Rice lying to us, to our faces on CNN and MSNBC. You see them, they just run out and trying to say all kind of things. They need to go jail for what they have done. Ambassador Stevens in Benghazi, he dead based on a lie. Obama must be held to account. Biden must be held to account. Hillary Clinton must be held to account. Bill Clinton must be held to account. George Bush must be held to account. And you know why I say that? Because for 8 years now, I've been hearing the Democrats saying that Trump should have been held to account. I had a chance. I did it for 8 years. And I allowed Trump to stand up in an address and tell all the Democrats to the face while they sit there, don't clap, don't applaud, and tell them that he is restoring law and order, where a government, a president will not try to persecute his opponent and say, like me, what they did to me, and all you could do is sit there. You have no power. You have no power. Trump has single-handedly destroyed the Democrat Party. All the Lafayette, all the 54 indictments, I tell you, I don't see them on my timeline anymore. I don't see the people who are talking the most crap. How he going to jail? We're going to see him in an orange jumpsuit. We're going to see who we see in orange jumpsuits. Because I'm going to tell you, Trump is a bigger and a better man than maybe even me. And this is why I tell you, I ain't no politician. I tell you what come to my mouth. In my mind, I'm going to tell you what it is. Trump is a better man than me. A bigger man than me. Because I tell you, within a week, I become president. I would have spent every single night asking my attorney general, FBI director, CIA director, NSA, Department of State, Immigration, FEMA, HHS, any crime. We're moving to the podium to indict. We're sending the FBI to arrest and take him to jail forthwith. But he's a better man than me. Because, as he says, he doesn't want division and he wants the law to be followed. Well, I've been there, done that. And maybe when Asbot Potter asked me if I wanted the culprit them who tried to set me up and commit so much fraud in the office of the lieutenant governor, when he asked me if I wanted them to arrest them and do them like how they do me, I should have said yes. Maybe I should have said yes, because what good for the goose, good for the gander. And once you understand the rules of the game, and the rules of the game is that there are no rules, free for all for everybody. But I believe that Donald Trump is wiser than people think. Maybe he's just as wise as I was by saying no. Let us follow the law. And if you find a crime, then you arrest the criminal. Do not look for the person and then assign a crime because you have the ability to do so. Not by fraud, coercion, or simply alliances. Do it the correct way. Let the law prevail. And if they break laws, commit crimes, then you arrest them for that. And that is another revelation of the man called President Trump. I was shocked to listen to some of the mainstream media, the ones that Donald Trump called fake news, bring on voters in panels right after Trump spoke and ask them, what do you think of this speech? Only to the people who are Democrats, people who say they have never voted Republican, they are still Democrats. But they give credit to Trump that they thought that his speech was uplifting, it was good, it was unifying, and it explained why he is on the move to make America great again. That happened on CNN, MSNBC, and all across those talking head media outlets. They allowed people on their panels who are hosts to rip into the Democrat Party like I've never seen. It was abuse. It was political abuse. Last night, this morning, all day, even tonight, it's going to be political abuse by the very own mouthpieces. When you hear people who are staunch Democrats get up and say that whoever decided to give those Democrat members cards and waving around, when you hear a Democratic operative who have dumped millions and helped to raise millions for the Democrat Party state that whoever came up with a bright idea need to be fired, you know they're doomed. It is one thing to say it behind closed doors. It's the next thing to say it to the Democrat voters who are listening to you and your mouthpiece propaganda outlet. So they just shedding more voters as they go. When you hear somebody on MSNBC say some of the most low-down things about a child who had 13 surgeries to his brain, who have cancer, and saying you're hoping that he don't kill himself after having to be there and listening to Trump, more voters leaving the party over things like that. When you hear Politico, the New York Post, the Times come out in this atmosphere, they already gain political abuse from their own. And then their own newspaper now come out and say that Joe Biden was so badly gone, cognitively impaired, that it were bureaucrats who were running the White House for over a year. And now they are questioning the pardons, the executive orders, and if they were valid. You have attorney generals now looking into it, and this come out today after what we witnessed last night. The Democrat Party is in bales of trouble. And that is why I say Albert Bryan might be smarter than a lot of people think for his political survival for the next year and a half, to make sure he gets some kind of trickling from the Trump administration. He gonna play the game. All it is a farce. You think that Governor Albert Bryan really aligned with Trump and deregulations, illegal immigration and deportation? You really think that he aligned with Trump and tariffs? No, that's games. He's singing for his supper. Look how the wall has turned. People just sing for the supper from him as governor here in the Virgin Islands. They're down on their knees, some of them. Some of them bent over backwards, some of them. Singing for the supper. You don't see them in the state of the territory address? They're getting up to clap even before the governor reach the punchline. You don't see some of them singing for the supper? They're on media in the Virgin Islands, spewing the most nonsense. I remember Attorney Carrington say he can't even call Trump name. But your governor calling Trump name now, who you support to the hilt. But it's all a game. But always remember, Trump don't play games. You see how Zelensky going back and forth and playing Pilinki with Trump? Mark my words. I bet you he come back to the United States groveling when Trump decide not another dime out of the United States going to Ukraine, and he cutting off all talks with Zelensky until he come humbly back to the US, and Trump is going to deal directly and unilaterally with Russia. Why are you going to call him a Russian agent? That's a man who George Bush used to carry around his ranch and horses. That's a man who Bill Clinton says very smart and has never broken his word to him. That's a man who Barack Obama whispered to his foreign minister or whatever to tell him he free up some time when I out of office, we're going to work it out. Nobody believe the nonsense, the narratives that the Democrat push no more. Too much real-time information out there. Too much easy research can be done. That is why Democrats are fleeing the Democrat Party. They've been lied to. They realize they've been lied to. These are the revelations of Trump. These are the revelations every single one of us in the Virgin Islands, the Caribbean, the world know that it is a fact. You can lie to yourself. Say Trump is orange man bad all you like. Because I was not a Trump sycophant. I never used to get up and say everything Trump do is correct. If truth be told, I didn't like the fact that Trump was pushing vaccines. If truth be told, I didn't like the fact that Trump was allowing Fauci and Deborah Birx to come into the White House press pool area and talk the most contradictory things. Is either the mask good for you or the mask causing respiratory injury and failure for children? It can't be good if it's bad. It cannot be good if it's bad. 6 feet is either good or it ain't good. COVID is either much more severe than the common flu or it is less than the common flu. It either spread through the ear or through droplets or both. And if it spread that way, 6 feet can't do you no good. I'm bringing back the BS that they were telling us under Trump. And Trump fought back as best as... common sense is common for Trump. Trump said, but if you guys give me hydrochloroquine and a medley a thing to fight me when I get the COVID. Because notice, I don't recall Trump ever sitting there and saying, I get a COVID shot. You know, if I'm wrong, in the comments, please tell me if I'm wrong. I don't recall Trump taking a COVID shot. Maybe he did. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Don't recall. But I said that to say this little piece. Trump tell you about hydrochloroquine. He tell you about ivermectin. He disagree with them openly to the world. They cannot come back and say that that ain't true. Trump said, no, I don't know about that, but hydrochloroquine is good. Sunlight is good. You need to let people go outside. You notice common sense? But the Democrats would want to tie Trump up in that. And that is why I am waiting for Trump to come out and say, to the world, I was misled or I was wrong. And I apologize because the vaccines are more dangerous than the COVID itself. And when Trump does that, I said it before, when Trump does that, he will become the world's greatest leader in my lifetime for standing up and taking responsibility for what he did not know and what he knows now. Because he pushed vaccines, trying to take a victory lap for having the fastest vaccines. But if the vaccines are dangerous, and we know that now, Trump owes it to Americans, its territories, and the world to say, for all who heard my voice and thought that the vaccines were good, the vaccines are not good. And they cause more damage than COVID itself. Because COVID now, we find out, is just as deadly as the common flu. You know how I know that COVID is similar or the same as the flu? During COVID, he ain't had no flu cases. Church out. During COVID, he ain't had no flu cases. Down to zero. So where the flu went, where did the flu go? And like I tell you, it is because of Trump why the world is aware of the gross incompetence of elected officials in the United States for decades. Just like how we are becoming aware of the gross incompetence, waste, fraud, and abuse of our taxpayer monies here in the Virgin Islands for decades. Decades. And as Trump reveals more and more, my people of the Virgin Islands, I am going to tell you this much. We need to wake up. We need to wake up the Caribbean. We need to wake up and join the rest of the world. Because it is high time that we realize that if the person that they tell you is not good, all of the people who engaging in the corruption that is being revealed, all the people who are engaged in the nonsensical DEI, climate change, the nonsensical women in men's bathroom, transgenderism, those who spew and promote racism, those who believe that illegal immigration is the way to go, so they want to have open borders. When you realize that all those people are pointing their guns directly at Trump, like my old grandmother told me, if everybody hates the one person who you realize is helping you, your children, helping you to do better in your life, then it is not that person who is the problem. He is the solution. They are the problem. They are just angry and firing out because they have been caught. Marxist rule is accuse your opponent of the things that you are doing. Trump have said that for 12 years. Maybe more, 15 years. He said it before the 2016 election he won. They did all manner of evil in 2020. Trump lost. He kept saying the same thing. They are accusing me of the very things that they are doing. And that is the revelation of Trump. So to all my viewers across the world, know that there's going to be more revelations in the days to come. And so the Hillary Clintons, the George Bushes, the Bill Clintons, the Obamas, the Barack Obama and the Michelle Obama, the Tony and John Podestas, all those enablers of Epstein, all those Hollywood pedophiles, all the pedophiles in the Virgin Islands, all of the people who have spent years now vilifying Donald Trump, spend the next 4 years keeping our hands down. Spend the next 4 years sitting in our seats and putting up little signs. Spend the next 4 years in TDS. Spend the next 4 years on social media calling Orange Man bad. And while you're doing that, enjoy the perks and the privileges and the benefits that his policies bring into the United States, because unfortunately, you receive the benefits just like everybody else. You're just ungrateful. You're just ungrateful. And like I say, to all the Democrats, you may need to speak up in your party, because it is on life support. Heartbeat is declining, and the policies and positions that the Democrat Party are now championing are like putting ear from an injection needle into your jugular vein. And you and I both know the end result of that. We need leadership in this world. We need leadership like Trump in the US Virgin Islands. We need leadership that is not afraid to stand up for the benefit of the massive majority and put the minority, greedy, self-enriching minority in its place, in front of the camera, every single time, without any fear, knowing that as long as you got the people behind you, and as long as you have the people from that very same party, even the Republican who are rhinos jumping ship, back into Republicans and not Republicans in name only. That is what we need. Because I fear that in the Virgin Islands we have rhinos who are worse than Democrats. Collister Fahie said that, and I said that from experience. The Republican Party of the Virgin Islands, you still owe Collister Fahie the matching funds that you put in writing. Maybe I don't have no conscience. Maybe I am worse than the Democrats here in the Virgin Islands. Or maybe I are part of the Democrat Party, pretending to be rhino, be Republicans. So I are just Republicans in name only. Want to go to every occasion in the United States. Want to go in every hotel. Call ourselves millionaires. Call ourselves well-to-do. You do nothing for the people of the Virgin Islands. And I say it because you have been found wanting by the very people who are striving to put your party, the Republican Party, my party, on the map. The very same Dr. Cleopatra Peter is a Republican in the Board of Elections. The same Barbara Lauren is a Republican on the Board of Elections. Where's your respect? Where's your assistance? And I know you get assistance to who I want. But your little tricklings will never stop my mouth. Your little tricklings as a Republican Party in the Virgin Islands You can't call me rude. You can't call me disrespectful. You can't say I beg you for a thing other than for your vote because I was a good candidate. Can't get me to kowtow. I ain't. Delegate to Congress, Stacey Plaskett, you know. Me ain't begging Epstein for nothing. Me ain't begging nobody for nothing. I asked the people of the Virgin Islands for their vote. And I delivered. I worked hard for the vote. I went out there and campaigned. And I carried the Republican flag, a banner. And I carried it well. I didn't hide it. I didn't play the game. I was vocal and out there, whether it was a bad thing or a good thing. So know your place. Anyhow, to the people of the Virgin Islands, the world, but more so to the people of the United States, that majority that elected President Trump as president, that majority that elected a majority Republican Senate, that majority of voters that elected a Republican House of Representatives. I say to you, you are the bright and shining example of when people, regardless of party, voted for the person that upheld the best of them to give back to them what they thought were promises that were going to be kept, only to hear now 77 million plus people, over 80 million now in terms of registration and switching a party, moving towards 85 million. And anytime you see 90 million Americans decide that MAGA is the way, the Republicans, Trump policies, make America great, has an individual who not only made promises on the election trail, but is delivering every single day on those promises by actions and not words. And it only gone 1 month since he's been in office. I am saying to you, thank you. From us here in the Virgin Islands, regardless of party, to the people of the Caribbean, South America, Asia, Europe, and the world, I, Collister Fahie, say thank you. Because by electing Trump and giving him that mandate, you have proven to be the greatest revelation of it all. You are the ones who, by your actions, have shown that corruption can be tackled, can be defeated if you take it head on. So let's all join Trump. Valid ID of citizenship to register to vote. Valid voter ID to vote. Same day voting. Election day, a federal holiday, so that everybody can go out and vote at their leisure. And last but not least, anytime you find election fraud, election interference, foreign interference in elections, waste, fraud, theft, mismanagement, misfeasance, malfeasance in government, prosecute it to the full extent of the law. To my listeners and viewers, good night and God bless. We will see more revelations as the days go by.